Good morning, students of Standard 10. Welcome back. Yet another episode of the Indian National Movement. Today, the main topic of discussion would be the emergence of Gandhi in the Indian National Movement, his doctrines, his philosophical views, and the launching of the non-cooperation movement, its program, and the aims of the non-cooperation movement. So to begin with, we start with Mahatma Gandhi, his philosophy. So the advent of Mahatma Gandhi in the Indian National Congress in 1919 gave a new dimension in the national struggle for freedom. As we all of you know, that Gandhiji was born on 2nd October 1869 in Porbandar in Gujarat. So he received his education, went to foreign countries, and there he practically in South Africa he was humiliated, and he came back to India and plunged himself into the national struggle for freedom. So today we'll deal about with the Mahatma's doctrine or the philosophies. What were Mahatma's philosophy? First of all, the Satyagraha. Now the Satyagraha has been taken from the Sanskrit word Satya Agra. Satya means truth, Agra means firm insistence. That means insistence on truth. So Gandhiji said that one must be insistent on truth. Passive resistance is the weapon of the weak, but a Satyagraha is the weapon of the strong. So believed in Satyagraha, that means destroy the wickedness, but not the wicked, was his main aim. Clear? That is called Satyagraha. Second, we have Swadeshi. That means goods made in one's own country. So Gandhiji was of the favor to use the goods made in one's own country and boycott the foreign goods. By using the good made on this own country, it would give impetus to the cottage industries, employment to the local people, and it will automatically enhance the economic development of the country. So started the khadi and charkha, that means making the cloth using the charkha and khadi, and therefore according to him, khadi became the symbol of India. That was the second thought of Mahatma. Then we have the non-violence. So Gandhiji followed the path of non-violence to achieve his aim. So he said, violent means is not the correct way to achieve one's own aim. So it lands up in different trouble. So one should follow the path of non-violence to achieve his or her aim in life. Fourthly is value-based politics. Gandhiji believed in the value-based politics. That means the honest deal to run the government not by dishonest means but through honest means. And therefore his politics based on value-based, that means by honest means we must be able to govern ourselves, not by dishonest means. That was the motive behind Gandhiji's value-based politics. Finally, we have faith in the mass movement. So Gandhiji believed the mobilizing of the masses. He was of the opinion that no political agitation would be complete without the involvement of the masses. And therefore, he asked various masses to come up and join the political movement so that the mass movement would lead to the downfall of the mighty British Empire. So in short, these were his philosophical doctrines that were advocated by Mahatma Gandhi to achieve the Indian freedom struggle in 1919, when he joined the politics in course of the India's struggle for freedom. Clear? This way. Now, Gandhiji was able to launch certain programs by his philosophical ideas like the non-violent movement. So one of them was the circumstances leading to the non-cooperation movement. He launched the non-cooperation movement in 1920 in the Nagpur session of the Indian National Congress. That means not to cooperate with the government, because the government was every time only pacifying the Indians but not giving them a responsible government. Therefore, in order to get a Swaraj or a responsible government, he launched the non-cooperation government in 1920 in the Nagpur session of the Indian National Congress. So what were the circumstances? Why were the circumstances that led to the non-cooperation movement? Was the first was the Rowlatt Act of 1919. So the Rowlatt Act was also known as the Black Act because the government passed a law under the Justice Rowlatt that any Indians would be arrested or put behind bars without a warrant. That means there will be no search warrant and any Indians can be captured or can be caught and put behind the bars without a search or a warrant. So this was against the administrative norm of the Indians, and therefore the Rowlatt Act was criticized by the number of the freedom strugglers, the freedom fighters, and they labeled this as a Black Act because it gave extraordinary power to the government to arrest the person without any search or warrant. Clear? So this was the cause that led to the non-cooperation movement. Second is the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy or massacre that happened in 13th April 1919. So, to protest against the Rowlatt Act, a mass procession was held in Jallianwala Bagh to demonstrate the British ugly laws and resign. A mass procession was held there, and the Britishers, they came up with heavy hand, and it was believed that General Dyer was the military commander of Amritsar, and when he saw the large procession demanding for Swaraj, he ordered his soldiers to fire, and when he fired, so it was believed that many thousands of people were wounded, some were massacred, and it was believed that he said that when called for, he started firing till the ammunition ran short. And so this was a very ghastly incident, and it almost shook the whole world about the British ugly face. Therefore, the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy was also a cause for the launching of the non-cooperation movement. Yeah. The next we have the Khilafat movement. So the Khilafat movement was also found by two Ali brothers, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali. If you recall back during the First World War, that is, Turkey fought on the side of Germany against the British. But the Britishers, they came heavily on Turkey, and they dethroned the Sultan of Turkey. And according to the Muslims' tradition, the Sultan of Turkey was regarded as the Caliph or the Khalifa, which means the spiritual and religious leader of the entire Islam. So this was against the Muslims' culture, and so they boycotted for restoration of the Sultan of Turkey as the spiritual leaders. So the Muslims thought that it is beyond their religious norms that the British is trying to keep. So therefore, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali together formed the Khilafat movement in order to restore the Sultan of Turkey to their original position. So this was done in a manner, but the British, did not do this, and therefore the agitation, the wave of agitation fell across the Muslims, and the Muslims now they fully realized that the British rule was a curse, and so therefore they joined hands with the Indian National Congress to attain for Purna Swaraj or self-government, and therefore it was a chance. The Mahatma Gandhi thought that it was a chance for the Hindu-Muslim unity, and therefore he also supported the Khilafat movement and the Muslims' agitation. And once again we saw, though the different Muslims and the Hindus, though they were in different platform, but this Khilafat movement also brought them into the same platform. Now the basic aim was to attainment of Swaraj. So the Gandhiji also felt that this was a God-sent opportunity, and he supported the Khilafat movement to drive away the Britishers out from India. Now, what were the different programs of this movement? The different programs of the movement can be summarized as follows. First one is renunciation of government titles and honors. All the eminent persons like Rabindranath Tagore, Siva Swami Iyer, Mahatma Gandhi, they renounce their titles. That means the honorary title that is given, they replace back. Even Mahatma Gandhi returned the Kaiser Medal Award given to him in protest of this movement. So that was one. Then boycott of foreign goods and adoption of Swadeshi. So the boycott of foreign goods and adoption of Swadeshi. The foreign goods were burnt, liquor shops were pickpocketed, and people started using the goods made in their own country, and therefore the khadi became a national symbol of the day. So that was the boycott of elections and other government functions. So the people were asked to give up, many people were asked to give up the government jobs and not to join the army, so that this would make the British administration fully crippled and paralyzed. Then boycott of government schools, colleges and law courts. So therefore, many government schools and colleges were boycotted. The students did not attend the class, and as a result, national education institutions were set up like the Kasi Vidyapeeth, Bengal National University, the Jamia Millia of Delhi, and the Muslim University of Aligarh, and therefore these national schools of education were set up in boycott of the government schools set up by the British. And then people were refused to attend offices, darbar, and boycott of government code by the lawyers. So the lawyers also boycotted the government code. So this was, in short, we can call it the program of the movement. Now what were the aims? There are different aims of the movement. That means the attainment of Swaraj. The attainment of Swaraj through non-violent struggle. Aim was the attainment of Swaraj through non-violent struggle and to protest. Second was to protest against the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. That means to protest against the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, that a lot of massacre, killing and inhuman activities were done by the British. So it was, the aim was to protest against the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. Then finally to bring the government to a standstill through complete boycott. That means to bring the government through the standstill through complete boycott, therefore the complete boycott of the British administration, so that the people wanted to show that the British administration cannot run a single day without the involvement of the Indians. Therefore, to bring about a standstill through the complete boycott of the British administration. So this was in short about the aims of the programs, the aim of the non-cooperation movement. Now, With this, we find about with another incident coming up with the Chauri Chaura incident, a very important one. The Chauri Chaura incident that happened on 5th Feb 1922. That is the Chauri Chaura incident. That is, so the Chauri Chaura incident on 5th Feb 1922. That means it was happened to protest. The movement was going with a very out of control, and it turned very violent. The people were protesting, and it was not easy for the British government to repress it. The violent mob was taking out a procession, and as the British they stopped the procession, the mob were fired at and beaten up, and as a result what happened, the mob got furious. They burned the police station along with the 22 policemen. So this caused a very arrogant structure of the British, and the immediate and the obvious cause for the withdrawal of this movement by Mahatma Gandhi was the Chauri Chaura incident that took place, because the movement was going out of control, and Gandhiji felt that if turned violent, it would be easier for the British government to repress it. So he called off the non-cooperation movement. As a result, many of the national leaders were against this, but Gandhiji did not want violence, and so therefore he called off this movement. Okay. With this, we come out to the end of the non-cooperation movement as launched by Gandhiji, the various aspects of the non-cooperation movement, the programs, the aims, and the method of struggle. So this is all we have for today's discussion. Coming up next would be the civil disobedience movement. Till then,